Hey everyone, this is Cameron, the co-host and editor of Renegade Animation on renegadepopculture.com. If you like what we do, please give us a like, a follow, and a rating on Apple Podcasts, or give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. We are where podcasts can be found. And if you can, consider supporting our Patreon. That way we can keep doing what we love, and that's talking about the utter mess that is the wild world of animation. And now, on with the show.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host this evening. Joining me, as always, is the animation guru himself, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
And, of course, everyone's favorite Crazy Lemur, Bree.
I feel so golden right now. I really didn't have anything catchier. I'm tired. I've been working a lot, and Suspicious Leo just broke me this weekend.
Yeah, life's been lifing lately, but we got a great show for you today. Eventually, we will be talking about Hoppers, because that's probably one of the biggest animated features that's in theaters right now, but we've got some other stuff to get to first, including a little update on the Academy Awards that aired last night. Congratulations to the cast and crew of K-pop Demon Hunters for winning Best Animated Feature. And, of course, Golden won Best Original Song.
Well, first off, congrats, man. That's, yeah, some people got a little pissy about it online because it was like, oh, gee, I wonder what the big victor is going to be for the Oscars. And it's like, yeah, but you know what else was there going to be? You wouldn't like...
You all would be pissed if fucking Elio or, Zootopia 2 won, so just shut up.
Seriously, you guys don't want Disney to win, but then you guys are like, oh, I guess K-pop Demon Hunters is going to win again.
It's like, at this point, you're just being fucking contrarian. You don't actually have an opinion.
This. Very much this.
It's so frustrating. Yes, would I have personally liked Little Amelie to have won? Of course. But you know what? K-pop Demon Hunters freaking deserved it. And, hell, they got a sequel now. It's going to happen. And it's got the same writers and team members of it, so
hell yeah on that. And here's the sad thing, let's just say K-pop Demon Hunters didn't exist. Little Amelie wasn't gonna win that award because it wasn't made by Hayao Miyazaki. As much as that was probably either my first or second favorite movie last year, I'm sorry, it's too good for the Academy.
Especially with the voters, which I didn't see any of the animated features that were nominated this year, so I opted out. We need less anonymous Oscar voter articles and more naming the fucking names. Some of those, not just the bad faith people who don't treat animation well. I just mean some of those comments from that one article were yo, you're low-key, bluntly racist. And it's just get those guys out of there. Stop treating this god-dang organization like it's freaking homework. That's what it is. These people treat voting like homework. And I don't know what we have to do to tell them to watch everything, but once it gets down to 3 to 5 nominations for each category, there is no excuse to be this lazy and inept with your jobs of voting. Come on. You're telling me that you were too lazy to watch the biggest animated film and just one of the biggest movies of last year? What were you doing?
I mean, depending on their age and their place in the industry, I don't know. Maybe they were just busy, making movies, but if you're one of the older members, you're literally just doing nothing all day.
It is just so crazy. Just, the gall. And if I was, mean and a member of Academy, which, by the way, I would just be, the meanest fucking bitch on earth. I would be, the Anna Wintour of the Academy and just be the most insufferable bitch on the planet. But, which, by the way, she was delightful last night. I would say if you go like 1 or 2 years and you don't completely fill out your ballot, you should be put on probation. Because honestly, like, I agree with a lot of the changes the Academy's made. I think they're genuinely trying in a lot of aspects, but unless there's like actual consequences, none of this means shit.
That's actually a fair point.
Because that's the thing, it's like we can hope for consequences and tighter constrictions towards rules, but unless you actually start kicking out some of these lazy punks, it's like nothing's going to change. They're still going to treat animation like they're treating everything like it's homework, like they're bitchy little angsty teenagers who are just like, oh, I gotta do homework on
it's like
Saturday.
crazy. They do that with the live action films too. So like, I don't even feel slighted against animation. They're just like that. I'm like, it's a privilege. Like, you don't have to be part of the Academy. Ryan Coogler has turned down the Academy. No one is forcing you to be a voting member of the Academy. You can just drop out.
Just drop out, man. And listen, I know some people made it a big deal about Demon Slayer not getting nominated, but y'all, if it was like I have a new editorial coming out that's basically titled Demon Slayer was never going to be Oscar nominated. And I feel so proud of this one sentence because it really is the core of why it didn't get nominated. If it was already impossible for non-Ghibli animated films from Japan to get nominated, what makes you think a franchise film, how much of a chance did it actually have? And like on top of the general bias towards foreign animation, which seems to fluctuate between year after year, because sometimes they'll be like, yeah, we'll nominate a bunch of them. And then sometimes they're just like, no. And it's just like, on top of the nonsense of it being a franchise film, which the Academy doesn't really like until they have to kind of recognize it, why would you want the voters who already have a hard time voting for everything or just pretending that it's a hard thing to do? Why would you want to give them 4 seasons of a show to watch just to get to this point of the...
No, that's crazy. And like Demon Slayer's a long ass movie too.
Like, it's about a 2-hour movie or so, if I
think
recall.
I think it's like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, something like that.
And that's just part 1. Like, that we all know they're going to chop up into episodes to be like, hey, look, we got a surprise final season. Part 1, baby. No. But anyway, and some of you people reacting to K-pop winning are such losers. Like, it's loser behavior to try to downplay the importance of this movie. And just how, like, it's another win for Netflix. I think the first Korean cast, like, animated film to win.
Yeah, I think that's what Mr. Matt Berry said last night. Which,
if you could
I
hear
love
him.
Matt Berry. I know. God.
Yeah, the audio issues were so bad last night. No, but then with Golden, and just how much of a huge thing that became. And I know some people got annoyed with that in the pop music review scene, but it's also like, what else was there going to be that would have caught y'all's interest or attention? Because, by the way, everyone bitches about the pop music scene, they're acting like nothing came out last year.
I mean, last year, kinda, like, except K-pop, it was really, really fucking bad last year. Like, compared to, like, summer 2024, where you had Brat Summer and everything else coming out, last year was... Like, and here's, like, the funniest thing. One of the hit songs last year, which, again, ironically is from Charli XCX, it was Party for You, which was from an album she released 5 years ago in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's like, how was K-pop Demon Hunters not going to win? Like, at the very least, even if they let Pixar and Disney onto the the nomination table, the voters have shown they are okay with not letting Disney or Pixar win, which some people got a little mad with the fact that people were sharing the fact that now it's been 4 consecutive years in a row that Disney has not won Best Animated Feature. And it's like, yeah, I think there's a very good reason for that.
And you're treating it like a negative. I mean, isn't this a good thing? Isn't this showing that all the animation cinema things that someone in the Academy is actually fucking listening and is making a conscious effort to make the category competitive?
This. And like it is literally just an objective fact that for 4 years in a row, a Disney or Pixar movie did not win Best Animated Feature. Like that's not whoever was reporting this being like petty about it. They're just literally stating a fact.
Like, and this isn't a slam or a like daggerize at like the hardworking animators, writers, directors, and people behind these movies at Disney. It just so happens that people liked the other movies more. They liked Pinocchio over Turning Red. They liked The Boy and the Heron over Elemental, which that's not too hard to do in 2023, no offense. And they liked Flow more than Inside Out 2. And plus, it didn't help things when Inside Out 2 had that big expose article about it. So, and for like Elio was there because of a slightly underhanded apology redemption tour from Disney saying, hey, sorry, we fucked everything over. We're so sorry. Like, let's at least get you a nomination so you don't feel too bad, even though we kicked the director off his own passion project and put him onto Coco 2. We'll talk about that. But anyway, it's a good thing. Though I will say, while I did enjoy the Golden performance at the Oscars, those women need to take some breaks and they need to rest those vocal cords, because I know this from watching The Voice and such, with how much they've probably been having to sing that song over and over and over and over and over again. Their voices are probably shot a little. Like, give them a break.
I mean, I know, like, midway through, like, for the longest time, EJ had, like, some vocal straining or, like, some other issues, which is, like, the first couple months they were doing Golden live, it was noticeably a couple keys lower.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I noticed that, too.
Yeah, so give them a break. Like, give them all the awards and give them the love, but also, for the love of God, the Academy, stop trying to play off everyone. It's supposed to be a celebration of your accomplishments.
I know, like, even Conan was kind of being a little sassy bitch about it last night, too. Like, yo, what the fuck? God, I love Conan so much.
I mean, I know it was a joke that he probably doesn't want to do next year, but I also think I would be down for a permanent Conan O'Brien Oscar host every year, because at the very least, he has fun segues, even if some of the skits went on a little too long, like the Bridesmaid one.
Yeah.
But outside of that, like, kudos to also Will Arnett for saying animation and it's an art form. It's not a prompt. We need to preserve this beauty and art. Like, good on him, because I think out of any celebrity in that room outside of the directors and such, he knows how important animation is.
I mean, he does voiceover. I mean, he's been the voice of Reese's for years.
Yeah, and of course, obviously, he owes a lot of his career to BoJack Horseman and Lego Batman, which, that movie is so funny. I watched it recently. Just a delight. But anyway, I just thought that was cool because, like, it shouldn't just have to be Del Toro saying it, because it needs to be a bigger thing, which, yeah, it kind of sounds like if you really want animation to be taken seriously, you need to start having it be nominated in other categories. That's not just, what was it, like writing, score, original song, and such. Like, it has to be in more than just Best Animated Feature, which, hey, they could have easily done that. I'm just saying, they could have easily taken off Kate Hudson's Song Sung Blue nomination, because nobody liked that. Universal probably shoved that on there, so it's like, I'm just saying. Like, I don't know. What do y'all think?
Um, I will have more Oscar hot takes on the next Zeroing Out because that's where I have my more spicier takes regarding how certain fandoms are responding to some winners. But
You mean the Dum Dum Zone?
Yeah.
yes,
I'll say this. Marty Supreme was never going to win. And I'm sorry to the people who wanted it to win and for some reason couldn't handle one battle after another in Sinners, basically gobbling up the awards with Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein basically pulling a Poor Things and stealing some of the technical awards.
Which, I mean, everyone and their brother who actually knows how these shows work could see from a mile away. Really, It was just Best Picture was, the last couple of weeks of toss-up.
And listen, I know people are still mad about Timothée Chalamet's words, and I don't think it's going to hurt his career that much. But I will say, I think Kevin O'Leary's comments hurt the movie more because...
Oh, no, absolutely.
his existence hurt the movie more.
God, did you see that gaudy outfit he wore? It's like, dude, what the hell? You look like some, penis pill influencer. Like, with that robe thing. I don't know, what the hell? And, of course, we got that great meme of him being like, look how bougie I look. I'm an actor.
If Joan Rivers was still alive, she would have ripped that apart.
Oh, yeah, no, exactly. And Jafar, the director of It Was Just an Accident, just 5 feet away from him, just kind of looking at him like, God, what a clown. God. Anyway, that's all I just wanted to say about the Oscars since I won't be there for that podcast. So,
but speaking of Universal, Cameron, I'm going to ask you, since you and I just watched the trailer, why does the Super Mario Galaxy movie look so good?
Well, why does Illumination's movies look so good this year? I know, granted, obviously, talented artists, good trailer marketing, and good editing of the trailers to make it all look really epic. Who knows? The movies could still just be whatever when they come out. But the thing that I found myself realizing more is the fact that I am looking forward to Illumination movies this year. Like, the Mario Galaxy movie, which, yeah, if you want to be pedantic as a Mario fan, I'll be like, well, some of that's technically Mario Odyssey, but it's technically Mario Galaxy 3, but I digress. But it has dynamic set pieces, the camera actually follows the action a lot more than most animated films are willing to do, because programming and animating a camera is kind of a pain in the neck. And it just looks good. I don't know what else to say. King Ward is a mafioso-looking galaxy crime boss. I don't know how Donald Glover?
Yeah.
How he fits in with voicing Yoshi. Shoot, whatever. That's kind of the crowd casting that I want to see happen, because it's we're so hell-bent on hiring celebrities for everything these days, even our podcast, which, no, we're not for sale.
But nothing's going to beat the euphoria of that initial cast announcement, which, by the way, I guess it was last week, I rewatched some of those reactions and I was on the floor.
It's so funny. It's sure, why not? And then with the Illumination, the Minions and Monsters trailer, what a sassy little cast announcement trailer where they announced who, let's see, Allison Janney, Christoph Waltz, Jeff Bridges, Jesse Eisenberg, Zoe Dutch, Trey Parker's back. I'm kind of curious to see how he fits into all this. Bobby Moynihan and Phil Lamar, which, hell yeah for that. And the whole trailer is Pierre Coffin as a minion going yeah, whatever, who cares? And then, most importantly, you find out that this one particular minion is named Dick. Why is Minions and Monsters one of my most anticipated movies of this year now? I don't get it, but it's so Looney Tunesian of, again, the Minions summon Cthulhu. And not only Cthulhu, like a tiny Looney Tunes version of Cthulhu. It looks fun. I mean, I don't know what else, like, it's not that deep. It just looks fun.
Yeah, that has been my relationship with the Minions franchise specifically, pretty much ever since 2015. These movies are stupid, but they're like my kind of stupid.
I mean, yeah, we weren't fans of Despicable Me 4, but that was only because at that point it just, whatever current plot they were running with was tired and, like, generic and really forgettable at that point. But there's a reason why, like, the Minions have stood. I mean, I don't know if it sounds too pretentious to say they've stood the test of time, but there's a reason why.
These movies have been going on for close to 20 years now. Like, they're obviously doing something right. And then I think the thing with the Minions is that they're moldable to multiple situations. Like, they don't have, like, that Furby, like, like, if I'm in a room with you for, like, more than 5 minutes, I am extremely uncomfortable. But I think the Minion movies still have a lot of gas in the tank, because it's like a Ruse stuff. It's like, what else can you do at this point? Like, we've kind of done, like, the entire family arc at this point. The Minions can just go off and do their own things.
Exactly. And which is, like, the funny part of it. You can just plop them down anywhere because we've seen that they are, like, millions of years old. I don't know, man. It's like, when you don't have to worry about falling into the animation influencer or YouTube talking heads crowd, it's like, hey, wait a minute, I can just enjoy shit no matter, like, ignoring all the weird talking heads who act like they're more serious than they are.
Yeah, like, I'm a very serious critic.
And then if you ask any actual animator who works in the industry, most of them will be like, no, man, these guys suck. Like, I'm sorry, it's true. I've seen it multiple times where animators who work in the industry are like, man, fuck this guy. Like, it's so funny to see that, where they're like, oh yeah, I would be best friends with animators, and they're just like, we would have a restraining order. This was a lot of news to cover for 2 weeks, because Dropout, the highly successful streaming service known for Game Changer and Make Some Noise, among other shenanigan-filled Dimension 20 nonsense, are doing an animated series of shorts that are animated and directed by multiple different people, including Matt Braley of Amphibia, which I can't wait to come back and talk about his Kickstarter because I'm so hyped. Like, we're recording this the day before, so. But yeah, there's like Raj Brugman, Victor Courtwright, who was the co-executive producer of Thundercats Roar and Aquaman King of Atlantis, so that thing's going to be unhinged. And
yeah.
Jonathan Wallach, Kaye Hayes, and Violaine Briat. And it's like, that's cool. Give some work to animators because apparently nothing in the industry is getting greenlit. Like, I'm down for this. Do this. Because it's not, like, it's just another avenue for creatives to make something that, because let's be real here. Glitch isn't going to go for every single indie pilot or indie creative idea. They're going to go for the ones that will give them the most profitability and merchandise potential.
But not only that, we can't just rely on one single studio or company to, like, feed an entire population. Like, you have to have other infrastructures to give, like, all these people a voice.
And it's not like the big studios doing anything right now. It's funny because sometimes when we say that, they are slowly working on something, or like they announce one show or what have you, but it just seems like they're not doing much. Or maybe my feed of animators on Blue Sky are just too contained of, I haven't had work in a while, man. I don't know. But this is very cool. I think Dropout is being such a cool streaming service to do this. And I know some people are annoyed with the, what was it? The LAPD crossover thing? Like with that show? Oh, The Rookie with Nathan Fillion and such. Which I know that can be its whole thing to talk about, like in a different podcast, not this one, about the relationship between how Dropout has sold itself compared to what The Rookie sells itself as a show. But if it means that the talented people working at Dropout and who are part of all these amazing game shows and such get to branch out into television or like get more comedy gigs or something like that, sure. Like, I'm sorry that not every streaming service is going to be some pristine, safe sanctuary of everything and such. Like, they're going to do what they need to stay afloat. They're just not being absolute monsters about it like every other streaming service.
Yeah, and I've been a fan of, well, back when Dropout was called College Humor. I've always kind of been a fan of their dips into animation.
Yeah, and now it's like they got a bunch of cool people who made shorts here. So if it's successful, that means they can make more. And that means they can pay more people to do these little shorts. So it's just like we need to find stability within the major industry and the indie industry, because otherwise neither are going to survive.
Exactly.
And speaking of that, two major either festivals or markets happened where Cartoon Movie, the European animation film market, and on top of some of the more well-known films that capped the event, like The Last Whale Singer and what have you, Cartoon Saloon was one of the people there that won one of the awards as one of the standout films getting pitched there for Kindred Spirits, the story about a young Irish immigrant bonding with a Native American, all the while her dead brother's spirit follows him around and such. And I mean, it's Tom Moore. He's back. It's so nice and exciting to see a new Cartoon Saloon trailer. And the fact that it looks so visually stunning, like it's a mix of Irish wood art mixed with Native American art. It's like, I'm excited. I don't care that I have to wait 2 to 3 years for it. Give me, take your time, Tom Moore. I am willing to wait for this.
I mean, if that previs, animation looks anything like the final product, oh my god.
Then we are in for a treat.
And there's just some, really cool looking projects in here. Yeah, some of them look a little generic, like Halloween versus Day of the Dead, which, listen, as much as we like to gas up foreign animation and just animation not from the US in general, there are going to be some less impressive looking projects.
Right.
And that's just going to be the thing. And some of them don't look interesting, but some of them do, like Firebird look good. Blaze had some really nice, interesting art direction and such. And, one of the big names that I loved seeing on here was, it was, in the third... Oh, no, there are two different ones. One, Cosmo Princess, which is by the same people that made Sirocco in the Kingdoms of the Wind, which...
Oh, hell yeah.
Mike and I that was my favorite animated film of 2024. And I saw that in 2023 at Animation is Film, the same one that had The Boy and the Heron, and I would have been like, yeah, those were my favorite, man. And then another one was Anka Damien, who, if you've seen Morona's Fantastic Tale, is that director. And it's just there's a lot of cool stuff. And yeah, there's stuff for little kids, preteens, adults. It's impressive. It's really frustrating how the rest of the world are like, yeah, we need to make animation for all crowds, and sometimes all the crowds will intersect with one movie, not just because we were aiming for that, but that's just because it touched every age demographic.
I mean, for every, like, look, I'll just be honest. I'm not going to be one of those people who say, oh, all forward animation is amazingly incredible, because lest we forget, the Pauly Shore Pinocchio film is actually a Russian film that just got redubbed with Pauly Shore for whatever reason. But I think the points that, at least for me anyway, is that there's just more of an output of like everything. And like, look, when you're producing like that much, yeah, you're statistically going to get some duds. I mean, that's just basically life. Like, that is the creative process. Not everything is going to be a 10 out of 10 banger. It just, that's just not a feasible construction of reality.
I mean, do we need to repeat the famous line that people apparently love from Ratatouille? Not everyone can be a great cook, but a great cook can come from anywhere.
Exactly.
So,
This.
and if y'all really want to stand by that, then that means you kind of have to accept that, yeah, sometimes the rest of the world will put out a dud. It happens. Even in countries that have a pretty good batting average. It happens. Like, I remember when I watched, what was it? It was like some kind of supernatural, like, theme park. Oh, Zombilenium. It's like, it had a really cool art style, a bad English dub, and a story that felt rushed, but still, it was like, there's kind of a cool idea here with the monsters in a theme park aesthetic and such. It's just cool. Like, I love seeing all these projects coming together, even if I don't end up liking half of them. So, and then we were going to do its own episode of the New York International Children's Film Festival, but unfortunately life got in the way, so we didn't get to quite tackle a lot from there, because we basically watched Whoever Stole This Book and My Life in Versailles, and that was pretty much it. I did watch Kaiju Guy, which is a very charming, like, if you love movies like One Cut of the Dead or the Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes or River, if you like movies like with that kind of low budget, like, pizzazz and, you know, like, spirit, you'll like this one, because, I mean, come on, it's like a guy who is tasked with making a live-action movie, like, marketing ploy to market his hometown, and then ends up getting to make it a kaiju movie. That's a cool idea. I want more people to be able to see that movie, so...
Yeah, that just sounds delightful, but the movies that we did get to see are worthy of the spotlight. Like, I really love the premise of Whoever Steals This Book. It reminds me of like a better version of that Fairly Odd Parents episode called Shelf Life, where Timmy and his fairy god parents follow, I think it was like Tom Sawyer through all these different children's books.
Yeah, or it's like that drama episode with the brains and such. I love that sequence where they're in Moby Dick, and the whale turns out to be the giant brain and such. And Captain Ahab is just like, whoever sees the white whale first gets this coin. And then they see the whale the giant brain pop up, and they're like, there's the whale. I saw it first, and then pockets the coin.
God.
But yeah, Whoever Steals This Book was like a fun, like, gotta protect the legacy and creative worlds of books, and it's really funny to see that basically the main threading plot line is basically book banning, and boy, how timely that is.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And the only real unfortunate thing is that this movie's just got, like, pretty lackluster characters that kind of play or tease a girl love connection between Mifuyu and her literal like fox spirit friend.
Her imaginary friend.
Yeah. Mysterious girl Mashiro. But the jumping from like a Japanese folktale to a dystopian sci-fi to a black and white noir mystery, it's like, I like the side characters, but it's just the major characters to follow are the downfall of this movie. They're just not interesting, and I wish the animation was a little more vibrant. Maybe I got a little spoiled by Cosmic Princess Kaguya having just the most animation.
I mean, it's fine animation, but it's just a little like above like your average TV anime budget.
That's the thing. It's like it has some cool moments, but it's also like, oh, we gotta have a bad guy in the third act. When I feel like that's, I don't know if there was meant to be a bad guy in this story or not. It just, I mean, I haven't read the manga. It just seems like, oh, gotta have a bad guy in here. But at the end with this evil god who wants the power of the books or whatever. And I mean, it was just like, it was flawed, but I had a good time.
I had fun, and the best way I could describe it is, it's like a slightly worse version of Encanto. Make of that statement what you will, but I thought it was a cute movie. Like, I thought it was a nice throwback. Like, this feels very much like a movie that would have come out in 2004. You know, like, you'd pop it on after watching, you know, some of the Inuyasha movies back to back. Like, it's fine. It's fun. I don't think it's anything, like, particularly to write home about, but it's not, I would say, like, offensive to my sensibilities.
Oh, no. Like, I would definitely, like, comfortably recommend this one. And I would say the same thing, but maybe a little bit more enthusiastically for My Life in Versailles.
I think I like that one a little more than Whoever Steals This Book, because My Life in Versailles is about a young girl who tragically lost her parents in Bree, what did you find out, or like what did they basically say this took place during in France?
So they're not super explicit about it, like they don't name the specific event, but My Life in Versailles is based off of the short film of the same name that came out in 2019, which is 4 years after the Paris bombings and the shooting at the Bataclan venue, which I think that terrorist attack killed like over 200 people. Like, it was bad. Basically, the TDRL, it was, I want to say revenge, but it was partially a reaction to France getting involved in the Syrian civil war. Like, and I figured this out the first couple of minutes that they were saying it. Like, they do say directly, like, they name drop it was terrorism and bombing. They don't focus on the event at all, but they do show, like, some of the memorials that it's pretty easy to piece together what event this is based off of.
Right. And it's about this young girl growing up and dealing with the loss of her parents, while also bonding with her uncle and getting along with the new kids at her school. And it's a very low-key movie. It's not like, oh, we gotta save the world kind of thing. This isn't Zombieland Saga where all you need is kill. This is a very small-scale, character-driven story, and it's very cute. Like, I loved the dynamic between her and her uncle. Like, the uncle's got a great design to him. This whole movie looks really cool. Like, yeah, maybe not the most dynamically shot, but the visual style is lovely. It looks like a New Yorker comic with these, like, cool, old school, like, thin pencil line backgrounds and lush watercolor environments, and learning about the uncle who did ballet but injured himself, and then just the constant baggage that he carries because of his parents' disappointment with him doing basically yard work and cleaning around the Versailles and such, even though he loves it. I mean, there's not really a whole lot to talk about with this movie. Like, nothing against it or anything. It's a very lightweight, charming little movie.
Yeah, there is just something very relaxing about watching this movie, which is a bit episodic in terms of the story structure, but there's nothing wrong with that. The characters are various degrees of likable. You do end up really liking the dynamic between Violet and pretty much all of her family, but especially her uncle, who like she starts off wanting like nothing to do with him, but then they start to form a nice little bond.
Exactly. It's like she's, of course, dealing with the fact that, yeah, I just lost my parents. How the hell do you think I'm feeling? And everyone is just telling her to move on, move on, move on. But it's like, she's not ready to move on. You can't just say, oh, I lost my parents. Like, oh no, I forgot to pick up eggs at the grocery store. Like, that's not what happened. It's an entirely different, like, mentally exhausting, emotionally tragic thing.
Right, especially to lose a parent in like that way and not really getting the chance to say goodbye.
Like, that's a lot to handle, man. Like, and I did like the final sequence where she does ballet for her school's talent show and she dances with like basically the shadow of her uncle's like childhood self. And I mean, granted, I will say that it ends kind of abruptly right when that performance ends. It's like, oh, okay. Like, no, like, further closure or anything. But it does get the closure done. She gets to go back to her old apartment where her parents lived and such, and got her own emotional closure out of it. And she does help her uncle stand up to his parents who are disappointed with them and such. It's good. They're both good. It's just not the most exciting movies of the year. They're good, like, I don't know. It sounds like it. I'm going to sound mean if I call it filler spots, but that's kind of what they are. Like, hey, if Crunchyroll puts out Whoever Steals This Book, I'll see it on a big screen if I can.
Oh yeah, same.
And like, I wouldn't mind seeing My Life at Versailles get picked up by like Netflix or something. I think a lot of people should like watch this. And like I said, the animation's charming. Like, there's just something so appealing about the design direction for these characters. It's just, they're both just lightweight movies. We were trying to find time to watch Space Cadet, but the screener ran out and we couldn't get the replacement in time. We'll just try to cover it another time, period. Because now we really got to get to the Pixar. Yeah, the Pixar of it all. And here's the deal. We not only got a trailer for Toy Story 5, like a full one, which, I don't know, man, looks fine, looks fun. Like, it is an interesting premise to put the toys in, because, yeah, who collects toys to play with toys these days? Unless you're like a really little kid. Like, most of the time, you get like an iPad or a Leapfrog or whatever those educational... No, and it's just like, I trust Andrew Stanton. I know his most recent live action endeavor did not go well. Apparently, he got really bad reviews at Sundance. But I like him, and I think he works better in animation. I think that's just kind of his thing, you know? Like, I know he wants to do live action stuff, but I don't know.
I know, and this is going to be kind of relevant. Well, this name's going to be relevant later, but Brenda Chapman's kind of had like a similar struggle to break in the live action, and you know what? That kind of sucks. I feel like if they had the right material, you know, they could. It just, whatever it is, this ain't it, Chief. But in regards to Toy Story 5, I actually kind of have a little bit of a hot take, and you guys might be mad at me for this.
Oh.
Why?
All right, so I mean, the trailer looks fine, But everything about this, like, and this is just kind of my feelings on Toy Story as of right now as a franchise, this very much feels like a Disney Plus original.
I mean, you're not wrong. It's like, I don't blame you for thinking that. Like, at one point, when are they or how are they going to keep this plot going? Because I doubt they are going to take a Lightyear approach to anything again, because Lightyear was
No,
just such...
please don't.
I mean, granted, I would kind of want to see a absurd Western, like, do like Woody or so, like Woody's Roundup or something as a movie, maybe. But even then, as I say that, maybe, because how many more times can we go through these toys and these characters?
I mean, like, I'm shocked that they haven't made like another Cars movie, because at least that I feel like would be more apropos. Like, at this point, it's like, other than money, like, what are we even doing here?
Actually, I can't really confirm this, but I heard one of the reasons why a fourth Cars movie is like not happening is because merch sales are kind of drying up.
I mean, kind of what happens when you have such a nothing universe and storyline. I mean, you pretty much wrapped up the storyline with the last movie. It's like, what else is there to do unless you want to do like another Cars on the Road miniseries?
Or if you want to do like a Doc Hudson movie. I mean, I know it's not going to be like Paul Newman, but it would be cool to see kind of like vintage, like, you know, Perry Mason like era like cars and stuff.
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing that. And because also they announced just so many things. Like, they finally have a like, what? Don't they have like a release schedule for Coco 2 now? Which just why Coco? Like, what
because
else is there?
They're building a ride for it in Disneyland, and we have to have the cross promotion.
Oh god.
I mean,
is that true?
Kind of makes sense, unfortunately.
Ugh. And then they're going to make a Monsters Incorporated 3, which, oh, that naming is going to bug the daylights out of me, because it's like Monsters Inc., Monsters University, Monsters Inc. 3, and it's like, no! Call it Monsters Inc. 2, because...
Or call it Monsters Inc. back in business. I don't fucking care. Which, again, that's happening because they're building Monstropolis in Disney World. Like, these are not coincidences.
Now, to be fair, it's not just a bunch of sequels.
I mean, and well, also, to be fair, I, at the very least, can see sequel potential with Monsters Inc. I don't see it with Coco 2, but...
Yeah, I'm struggling to think of, like, what the story can be for Coco 2.
Miguel dies again, I guess.
Oh, gosh. I mean, like, unless there's another part of the Day of the Dead that they haven't touched upon, it's just, there's nothing to it. Like, at least the director who got kicked off of Elio can work on a movie, I guess. Well, it's hard to be excited about these sequels when we really can't differentiate it from what the recent Pixar Wall Street, like, was it Wall Street Journal? Like,
yeah, it's
interview?
originally a Wall Street Journal article.
But we'll get to that in a moment. But Mike, just so we aren't just being like, oh Lord, we're stuck in sequelitis time zones now. What were the two little caveats that they talked about? Outside of, obviously, Enrico Casarosa's Gato being a thing.
There are two major projects that were in development. An all-new original musical directed by Domichi.
From Turning Red, and The One Ghost Markets. Inspired by Asian myths about supernatural bazaars where the living and the dead interact. Which, okay, is this going to cross over with Coco 2 or something like that? Is Coco 2 going to be like oh, we got to deal with another afterlife and folk mythological dead zone area. So,
So, are you saying that we're getting a Pixar cinematic universe?
I don't know. It's just funny that One Ghost Market has like, I mean, first of all, sounds great. I'm down. And, but it's just funny. It's like where the living and the dead interact. And it's like, so is this just going to be like the Asian myths flavor of Coco? Or what's going to happen? I don't know. There's very little information about both of these two original movies. And hey, if Domishi can work her way around not having to deal with studio executives, like noting it to death, I'm down to see in a musical. Though I guess they don't count Coco as a musical because I guess Coco doesn't count as one, I guess.
Yeah, because the thing with Coco is it has songs that are performed throughout the film.
But it doesn't narratively drive it. It's not like a traditional musical where typically, at least if you're doing like a Broadway style musical, or I guess even something like K-pop Demon Hunters technically falls under this umbrella too, of where there's actual like relevant plot information like in the lyrics and music, and that's used to drive the story forward.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay. Well, I'm much more interested in Gato and then One Ghost Market and whatever this musical that Domishi is working on. Because out of all the Pixar films I've seen, and even though I still overall enjoyed Inside Out 2, Turning Red and Luca have been their best things. I mean, for the 2020s. And I still like
Oh yeah,
Soul.
no, I agree.
But still, it just seems kind of rough right now with Pixar and Disney because of the whole thing with them losing 4 consecutive years for Best Animated Feature in a row, which, yeah, it kind of happens when you have your executives coming in and saying, hey, you can't make this too gay. And boy, Pete Docter, you kind of have a way with being protective and defensive of your artists and then not in any other way. But we'll get to that. But with the recent release of Hoppers, it's really brought up like a weird. Well, it's not even a weird. It's a inside look of how current day Pixar is being ran. Because first of all, Daniel Chong's Hoppers is really good. I had a blast with this movie.
Same.
Like, it's probably the freshest they have felt since 2022. And nothing against Elemental, but Elemental was always going to be on the weaker side of Pixar films. Like, and even then, that's just like on its own merits, because even then in 2023, I'd still rather watch Pixar's weaker movies than someone else's, like another studio's, like, quote unquote best attempts. Like, I'd rather watch Elemental than last year's Smurfs.
Yeah,
like,
no, that is fair.
Or SpongeBob antics. So, like, this is what we need to see more of from studios. Daniel Chong, the director and creator of We Bare Bears, brings an actual identity to Hoppers. And that is what animated films need. They need a distinct identity, a direction, something to make them stand out. Whatever you think of Hopper's story, I know the spectrum of how people feel about the story go from like they really like it, they really enjoyed it, or they just think it's like, oh, it's flawed, conservative, and it's just like, shut up, some of y'all. Like, some of y'all are buzzkills, like, or just bad people. So,
or both,
or both. Yeah, no, exactly. And the fact that this is probably the loudest I've laughed at a Pixar film, because sometimes Pixar films can be funny, but I wouldn't call them comedies. I'd say they're more like dramas or adventure films, I guess.
Yeah, like, it's kind of like weird when you think about it. You know, you have something like Finding Nemo, which, yeah, has sad moments, but arguably it's like a comedy, because I genuinely remember as a kid like laughing my ass off And you would think there would be more Pixar movies with that type of energy, and there really isn't.
I mean, like, I know a lot of people like Monsters University, but I just, I still think it's just kind of okay. Even though I do like the moral at the end. I like that, but if you took out the Monsters Inc. IP off of it, it's just another college frat fraternity
Yeah.
80s movie. Like,
Which, if funny thing, if you look at one of the articles that got brought back up, from like a year or so after Lasseter was ousted, like the Helen Mirren character was originally a dude, and it apparently, allegedly, was changed into a woman because otherwise there had been no female characters in that movie.
Oh no.
yeah, we gotta talk about Pixar's boys club problem, but we'll get to that. And I'm sorry, we're teasing this thing, we're dragging this whole thing out. But when you watch Hoppers, it's genuinely funny. Like, probably one of the funniest animated films of this decade. And it's because its comedy feels like it's on the Pixar wavelength of respecting you as an audience, and it doesn't try to overload you with jokes. I mean, there are some funny background gags and such here and there, but it's a movie that picks and chooses its humor. And it's like, okay, here are a bunch of jokes, and we're going to cut about half of these and pick the funniest ones.
Yeah,
and
it's kind of like they only picked the funniest ones because, I think the pacing is a little it is actually pretty well paced for a Pixar movie, but at the same time, like, it goes for some of the funniest and even some of the darkest humor that I've seen in recent memory.
A lot of jokes that you see in the trailer are funny. I mean, granted, they did keep the Avatar comment, which they had to get around that. Daniel knew people were going to make that connection, so they're like, no, it's not like Avatar. Okay, done. Let's get on with it and such. And I still think one of the best gags is when Mabel finds out about the pond rules. And just like, yeah, well, she's got to eat something. So you still wanna? And then the bears are like, no, man, it's weird now. Which I feel like that's just something you would have to feel like deal with in an animal kingdom, where it's just like you almost get something, and then it's just kind of like, so you're gonna eat me still? No, I lost my mojo. No, yeah, no, run, go. Just. Though they do hide a lot of the best jokes in the movie. Like, they don't show them all in the trailer, which I think is great. I love that they have multiple animals getting eaten gags. Like when the King of the Beavers, voiced by Bobby Moynihan, and I'm so happy Bobby Moynihan has a main role in a movie. He is so funny. He is one of the most unsung heroes of SNL, and I think he has deserved main character status in a lot of comedies and just movies and TV in general. Because even in like the worst comedies I've seen, he was always the bright spot of them because he's just naturally funny. And every time he shows up in a show, he's great. And I love when he's like talking to all the animals, when he's just like, yeah, that's Barry, Steve, Craig. And they're like, hey, Sam. And then a fish goes, hi. And then the bear eats the fish. And it's just like, rule number 2. When you gotta eat. And then, of course, you see the one from the trailer where the worm is just like, oh, yeah, man, just like, it's not so bad around here. Then he gets picked up by a bird. Which, I know Turbo was doing that dark joke first, but it's just funnier here.
Yeah.
Because there's just nothing quite like that in the rest of Turbo, so you're just kind of like, that's some insanely dark humor for a fast snail movie. I still love where they're just like, yeah, man, everything looks great. Oh, there goes Kyle. Anyway. Actually, to be honest, I don't hate Turbo as a movie. I get why people are find it insufferable and why it never really went anywhere franchise wise. But this was 2013. You kind of had to pick which ones you liked from a very slim pickings year. So
Yeah.
But let's get to the real meat of Hoppers, because I feel like this is where people get split down the middle with it. I like the messaging in the Hoppers of just like trying to find the best in everyone, even in your enemies, which I know is such a it's a choice to have this plot line right now, and with especially with what's going on and such. But I'm fine with earnest, maybe slightly cringy optimism right now, because we kind of need that. So
it's a term that Jim Henson coined back when he was alive called ridiculous optimism, and I think that kind of applies to the theme of this movie.
And I know Sarcastic kind of said, oh, it's just like Steven Universe with this comparison with the Beaver King character being so optimistic about everything. And it's just like, you know what? You need that optimism to get through the tough hurdles in life, because if you don't have that optimism, you're going to feel like Mabel later in the movie, where she's just like, I can't do anything. I feel powerless. I don't feel like I can do anything. And I think everyone has respectfully had that crash out, where it's like everything sucks right now, and it really does, and you feel powerless, but it's like, there are good things happening. We can turn things around. I believe in that. Like, I'm not just trying to be overly optimistic or whatever that toxic positivity bullshit is. It's like, I do believe in that. Like, I love that sequence where she says, where Mabel is like, oh, like, isn't it kind of naive to believe that everybody's good on the inside? And he's just like, maybe. But wouldn't that be nice? And it's just like, yeah, that would be nice. And this is where I think people fall off with the movie, because the movie does end up having a villain, and it's not the mayor, technically.
Yeah, that's the thing. I love how the trailers do not give away anything about what actually happens in the second half, because the second half of this movie gets completely unhinged with who you find out is like the real villain.
So, spoilers, we're going to talk about this because you have to kind of experience this moment. So, as you see in the trailer, you see that like all the animal kingdoms get together. The fish, the frogs, the birds, the bugs, and quite a heavily stacked cast of voice cameos for this movie. I mean, the whole cast is pretty good in general. Piper Curta as Mabel is really good. Like I said, Bobby Moynihan as King George. Mayor Jerry, voiced by John Hamm, which I did see online. Some people thought it was Chris Parnell as him, which kind of the same mannerisms and comedic cadence to it all.
Yeah,
but
I can see why people think that.
But I do like John Hamm in this role. I think Mayor Jerry is just a flawed human being. He is just a human. He's not doing this to be... Like, it's funny because they paint him as like not that bad of a person, but his actions do cause environmental damage, which, yeah, sometimes we don't need to actually expand outward and kill the forest, the environment, and such just because we need a new roadway. You got that? Or, we don't need to bomb the daylights out of other countries for oil. Just saying. But we also have like Dr. Sam, who's voiced by Kathy Najimy, who, a lot of people would know from either Hocus Pocus or as Peggy from King of the Hill. Meryl Streep as the Insect Queen. I was a little shocked that she agreed for such a small cameo.
Right?
Like, I don't know. I feel like she's one of those actors who would say, like, no, I take award season main roles. I cannot be a side character.
I mean, she's been a little bit more liberal in her career because she's been, like, in a couple seasons of Only Murders in the Building.
Oh, she's great in that show. And Then there's like Eduardo Franco as the best beaver in the movie, Loaf. Very different from his usual like stoner doofy persona when like he's cast, because usually he's like the doofy stoner friend or classmate or whatever. But here he's just like, huh? Oh, all right. Melissa Villasenor as Ellen the bear, the Fish Queen by who's voiced by Ego Wadim, Sam Richardson as Connor. I didn't catch that at first. I love Sam Richardson.
Oh, he's great.
Even though like him and Aparna Nacherla, who plays Nisha, like I would say like if this cast had a weak point, it is the human side characters. Like there's a lot of focus on Mabel, Mayor Jerry, and Dr. Well, I think Dr. Sam is also kind of generic, but she at least has like a more fun design to her. Like kind of like a kooky college professor, like if Miss Fritz from Magic School Bus.
Oh yeah, I can see
Miss
that.
Frizzle.
Yeah, and then there was like with all of these cameos of like from the animals, like Nicole Sakura as the reptile queens. Great design and animation with there being 3 snakes, basically those garden snakes that I think they're called garter snakes or something like that. That like the black and yellow green ones that like bundle together and such.
Oh,
if you watch like nature documentaries, you know what I'm talking about. The late Isaiah Whitlock Jr. as the Bird King, Steve Purcell as the Amphibian King. Great limited use of these king characters. I thought they were like the right amount of used. Aaron Hue as Grandma Tanaka, which I knew what was going to happen with the grandma, but it was still a good dynamic with her and Mabel, where she just taught you like you gotta slow down in life sometimes. You just gotta enjoy things, and just if you just take a moment, things will happen. And then, of course, there was Tom Law as Tom Lizard, which I was expecting the Lizard to play a bigger comedic role in the movie, but he doesn't really play that big of a role as part of the side characters and such, which I was a little surprised by.
Same, but like at least the time that he does get on screen, it's genuinely hysterical.
And Vanessa Bayer as Diane, the apex predator, which, let's talk about this. So Mabel basically is like, okay, we got all the queens and kings together. We need to stop the humans. And because with everything, the insect queen goes like, oh yeah, we should just murder them. And Mabel's just like, yeah, no, wait, what? No. Or as they say in this movie, squish them. And one of the darkest jokes in a Pixar movie happens where Mabel accidentally kills the insect queen. Like, this isn't a spoiler now because they basically used the reaction image seen in that moment in the movie. I burst out laughing at this sequence because it's like, you think from the trailers the insect queen's going to be the main villain, and then you just see her just accidentally just squishes her. The animation on these characters, the design work of just the reaction shot of King George being horrifically mortified by the fact that Mabel just caused matriarchal genocide. It was and unfortunately I was like the only one at my screening of this, but luckily the movie's actually doing super well.
Yeah.
But the movie's like, you know what, this is not absurd enough. Let's crank it to 11, where the prince of the queen, the insect prince, quickly molts into the king, voiced by Dave Franco at his most, like, cartoonishly sinister. And with the apex predator, like, where they find Diane, you see a bunch of birds just carrying a great white shark around. And the visual comedic antics that they get into with the second half of this movie is creative, funny, like, surprisingly dark if you think about it too hard. And, like, when you find out that, like, oh, the Insect King, again, Dave Franco, is going to take over a human robot body And it looks like Mayor Jerry, but the animation on him is rigged wildly differently. Because there's a difference between John Hamm Mayor Jerry and Insect King Mayor Jerry. And if you want to see some amazing villain animation, this is the movie you need to see. It is great. Just so out there, and the fact that, like, one moment the fake skin head of the robot body just is completely off, leads to some of the most, I don't know how many kids got scared during this sequence, but I hope they did get scared. Because it is disturbing, to say the least. Like, I don't know how Daniel Chong got away with some of these jokes and visuals, but apparently Pete Docter defended the comedy in this movie because Daniel Chong said, yeah, so many of the execs wanted me to cut the comedy out of out of this movie a little bit. And Pete Docter was like, no, man, you gotta let this be. Because, I mean, it's really, that's what defines Hoppers, is that comedy. And when you take that out, it would have just been a generic Pixar movie. But it's elevated because it just goes places in the second act.
Oh yeah, I think the second half of the movie is why I just adore this movie so much. It's right now, I think it's like, it's tied with Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die as like my favorite movie of the year. It's the one I had the most fun watching, and it has like a really nice message to it as well.
And listen, I know some people like to criticize this part of the plot where they're like, well, doesn't this go against King George's like philosophy of everyone has good inside them? And it's like, not really. It would be nice if everyone was good. The problem is, not everyone is, especially with right now with what's going on in the world. Mm-hmm. So there are, like, no matter if some of them do try to change for the better, it's like, no, you're a bad person. There's no way to, like, come back from that. This movie it has a very heavy political message to it. And even though some can say that, oh, they threw in a villain at the last minute because there needed to be some kind of third act climax. Kind of like how sometimes like Studio Ghibli movie kind of feels like there needs to be a villain or some kind of conflict in the third act, when I don't think, like, I understand why it happens here. And the fact that it's still funny, entertaining, and thrilling, like from beginning to end of the second half, still works for me. So I'm fine with the fact that Dave Franco gets to go like balls to the wall, crazy evil here. So,
yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing. Like, sometimes it does feel forced when a movie has to have like some sort of like escalated drama at the end, but this they set it like they set it up kind of perfectly for like the payoff for Dave Franco's character, and just like you said, the fact that he gets to go just completely batshit with his performance makes it all the more worth it.
It's also funny that recently there was that video where he was talking about how in the voice recording booth or like our studio, like the video showed like a very expansive room. It's not just like a closet or something like that. There's the Adam Driver bar that's in front of the voiceover, like in front of the recording equipment, that apparently Adam Driver got so extreme with some of the voice work he did, he needed to hold on to something. And when you hear Dave Franco's vocal performance, like, this goes up there with how evil he is. You could tell he was probably holding on to that Adam Driver bar for his dear life with how much he was yelling. And then, of course, with all the small little jokes here and there, like, hey, yo, I don't think this is our mayor. And it's like, oh! What makes you say that, random citizen? Is it because he has no head? Or, like, his head's a robot? And then I didn't stick to at the very end of the credits, but I did love the post-credit or the mid-credit scene where they're just playing around with the basically mask of Mayor Jerry. And they're like, I'm a human, I drive cars, I pay taxes. And then the mask gets taken away by a bird, and they're just like, aww. Oh, it's such a delightful movie, which...
Hold on.
Okay.
Before we get there, they do make some references to other Pixar movies, and like this time it's a lot more explicit than when Pixar has done this in the past.
Oh, like which ones? Like I was too busy laughing my head off and like
So at the very end, one of the new projects that Dr. Sam is working on is the technology that makes dogs talk. And
oh yeah, the Up reference.
Yep.
And I'm sure sooner or later she was going to make the accidental door dimensions to Monsters Inc. So, oh god, that's probably going to be what Monsters Inc. 3 is going to be, isn't it? But any other references that you caught?
I think another one like that was the only one I knew about, but I think there might have been some sort of reference to Cars in kind of like the same thing they've done for Hoppers, like, you know, putting someone's brain in that of a car.
God, wouldn't that be the horrifying prequel story to Cars? Everyone got their brains put into cars because the environment was dying. I did catch the Pixar short reference with the birds.
Was it
Yeah, it was the one, where they're all like hanging out on the telephone wire and then that big bird comes down and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the big fat ass bird.
Yeah, but like in general, it's amazing how you can tell which Pixar movies recently have gotten tampered with and which ones did not, to be honest. Like, even with something like Inside Out 2, which still has like a lot of great gags and great moments and such, you could tell they tampered with that one.
Yeah, because I'm sorry, like, that is not heterosexual at all. Like, oh, she's cool, she wants to be friends. Like, no, honey, that is not what's happening here.
You're gay, honey. It's okay. It's a natural thing that happens.
You're a hockey-loving lesbian. It's fine, sweetie. You're gonna find a great community. Just hang in there.
No, seriously. It's just so funny. Like, even then, like I said, I still enjoyed Inside Out 2, but you could tell that they tampered with that. And it's really like Soul, Luca, Turning Red, and Hoppers feel like the movies that got tampered with, at the very least, the least amount.
Yeah.
Because even though, like, the director of Luca had to kind of push back against the fact that, like, no, this is not a gay romance story between the two boys. And it's like, how do you explain half of this, dude? I know guys can have platonic friends, which, hey, guys, you need to start investing more of your emotions and time into that, by the way. Like, find kinship among guys who have similar, like, things that you like, and not in the world-ruining way. But with Luca, it's like, I'm sorry, the way the movie ends and how it makes you cry with the train leaving and seeing the boy, like, running after him, it's like, come on.
So, ironically, the little girl's name's Juliet, right?
I think so.
So, apparently, like, she was the one that was supposed to be gay. Shockingly enough.
Oh, yeah, Juila.
Yeah.
Which when you look at it, and the tomboyish, I'm like, yeah, I can kind of see it. Honestly, like, this is the one time I believe the director. I mean, he just had a close friend, and, he's Italian. I mean, have you seen, like, JoJo's Part 5? Italian boys are very open with their feelings.
Which is fine. That's actually, like, a good thing to have. It's okay to be emotionally vulnerable, people. But with like I said, with Hoppers, it feels like, and Daniel even talked about this because he had to come out and say this. Now, whether it was coincidentally at the same time when that Elio thing came out, or not. He said, yeah, my thing didn't get tampered with as much. And you know what? And we talked about this in the exotic lost episode of the podcast about Cosmic Princess Kaguya. Sometimes you have to cut stuff. It's okay. Sometimes it's for the worst, but most of the time it's a natural process of the storytelling, experience, and production side of things. You're going to cut shit. But I feel like Hoppers didn't really have that issue. At least to me, it didn't have that issue. I understand if people have an issue with the third act and whatever, but I disagree. I mean, at this point in life, I just disagree, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. It doesn't feel as explicitly tampered with than, say, Elio, which we've talked about to death, and probably even Lightyear. I don't know how much of what we saw in that movie is actually the finished, actually the full vision of the filmmaker.
We would have to talk to the director himself because he's no longer working at Pixar, so wondering if he would be more willing to talk about what happened with that. Because I was a little disappointed with Lightyear being just kind of whatever. I was kind of hoping for it to be good, and then that second trailer happened, and then I watched the movie, and it's like, something came up with this movie. Hey, Pixar, you want to get rid of that boys club problem you have? Because it seems like it's still happening.
Oh, yes. Let's horrifically rip this Band-Aid off.
Yeah, so as we've been teasing all throughout this whole episode, along with that thrilling Wall Street Journal interview,
which, by the way, came out the weekend Hoppers came out. I'm like, yeah, that's not what I would do the weekend my studio's new movie's opening, but that's just me.
So Pete Docter talked about what they a lot about the process of making movies and such. And then in an asinine decision, basically said, hey, the reason why we cut out the queer stuff from Elio is we're making movies. We're not making family therapy sessions. We're not here to put quote unquote uncomfortable topics in your in your eyeballs of your parents and your kids.
All right. The weirdest thing about that interview and that article is it almost seems like this was unprompted from the interviewer, because the actual question was to be like, hey, what are some of the differences, why you want to tell universal stories? It was just a completely nonchalant question, which, yeah, I know the Wall Street Journal, isn't the most left-leaning publication, but it was such a neutral question, and then we just hit a hard that answer.
Just why as time goes on, I realize my job is to make sure the films appeal to everybody. We're making a movie, not hundreds of millions of dollars of therapy. Pete, what the fuck do you think Inside Out is being used for? Where did you get that idea? What people did you collaborate with to make Inside Out a thing? Therapists! Children's therapy! This movie is being used for children who are going through therapy to help explain emotions. It's a movie about a girl not being able to use her emotions who are at conflict with one another to be able to express how she's feeling about moving halfway across the US to a new location and such. That's therapy! That's therapy! What the fuck are you talking about?
I had an epiphany while reading, not the article itself because it was hidden behind a paywall, but the eventual reprints by other outlets. Pete Docter, the filmmaker, is still someone I hold a lot of respect for. I really don't vibe with Pete Docter, the CEO, anymore, because it almost seems like everything that comes out of his mouth is something he thinks he has to say because he's the CEO. I have never seen someone lodge their foot so far, into their mouth when it comes to when it comes to questions that like that should be layups, but instead says something ridiculous like, "Oh, we're making a movie, not $100 million of therapy." Like, what?
It was just such an unforced error. Like, the best thing you could have done is just give like a total like non-answer, saying, "At Pixar, we look to tell the best stories, and we're just adapting the way that we tell stories to evolve with our audience's taste and things." Like, you could have just given like a total non-answer. You didn't have to end at all that and just, I'm sorry, pardon my French, just completely fuck over your employees who have a new movie coming out with like this completely unneeded controversy.
Exactly. The dude shoved his foot so far into his mouth, it started an OnlyFans for foot fetish videos. Like,
And you know what? Like, here's the thing about his talk, and this is like the thing about Pixar that honestly doesn't get talked enough about, is that we don't talk about like Pixar's like Silicon Valley like origins, because everything that you read about the Pixar reads more like Silicon Valley like tech bro fucking logic. So then when you actually start putting these things together, it actually kind of fucking makes sense. And the problem is someone like Pete Docter, who, don't get me wrong, is very talented, but they're very, like, the mentality just seems very stuck back in like the 90s. And I think the primary issue here is that I feel like anyone who was originally part of that story trust and is still at modern Pixar is part of the problem.
yeah, there's been stories about Pixar's boy club problems, and yeah, it's very apparent why it just seems like it took freaking forever for there to finally be a feature film directed by a woman at Pixar, because it could have been with Brave, but they were like, nope, we're not doing that shit. Fuck you. What was it, Brenda Chapman?
And Brenda
was it?
Chapman, which, by the way, one of the most haunting moments of my life, not to like get too sidetracked, was
No, do it.
okay, well, I'm gonna just give the abridged version of the story. So it was Lightbox Expo, I want to say 2022, and Brenda Chapman was on like a panel of like Chris Sanders and like a couple other like Disney vets. And then this wasn't like prompted by like a fan or anything, but Brenda Chapman brought up Brave, and like you could clearly see that she was like almost holding back tears, and then she like kind of got it together and said, "I'm still very proud of the final product." I think that was the moment for me where I just went full force, fuck John Lasseter forever.
And unfortunately, it seems like not much has changed, even when you outed him, which, listen, his creative id basically died back in in the early 2010s. He, like, the moment you say Cars 2 with spy shit is real, that's it. And especially with the fact that his Skydance animation movies have been less than stellar, to be kind.
Yeah, I mean, he's been cooked for a while. I mean, if we're being honest, like, John Lasseter had some good ideas, but mostly, like, I would say most of early Pixar success was Joe Ranft, who apparently brought Brenda Chapman in because they were friends. And I felt like when he passed away, Pixar kind of lost its heart a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, first of all, it's impossible for any studio to stay at the top of their game forever. Even when they become production companies like A24, Neon, even like G Kids, who I love and will fully support with whatever they release, they've put out some bad movies. That's not new. That's perfectly healthy for a company to sometimes have a few bad or less than stellar movies. That's not a problem. The problem is with the fact that Pixar has a toxic masculinity boys club issue where the men get most of the nonsense. Like they get possessively, like, headbutting with like, no, I want this or whatever. It's just
so ridiculous. And I just remembered another thing about Joe Ranft, specifically why he wanted Brenda Chapman. He was like, he's like, Brenda, we need a woman here. Like, these guys do not know how to write female characters. Please, I am dying here.
like, listen, I love Brad Bird and such, but it's tough to be like, I love Mrs. Incredible or Elastigirl or Helen or whatever. As a mom character, like, that was Brad Bird at his creative high point. But there's a reason why there's something else you remember about Elastigirl and why Violet doesn't really get much of a character, per se, for the Incredibles and such. And yeah, you do sometimes a female director and writer know what the fuck they're doing. Which is so funny because sometimes I'm like, it's like, oh, this really cool manga is written by a woman, or like show is written and directed by a woman. Wow, they write male and female characters way better than actual male writers and directors. Huh. I mean, that, like, seriously, my favorite fantasy anime is getting a second season in the spring, Dordo Hetero.
Yay.
And that is the most diesel punk magic cool as hell show to watch. And oh man, it's got the nuance of every kind of female character you would want. The cool, level-headed one, the airhead, the muscular, tomboyish, badass. And it's just like, it goes the full spectrum. Where, yeah, Pixar doesn't quite know how to write female characters sometimes. And I think that is a valid criticism to have. Like, even like with Pete Docter and such. And like, even the best people, like, it's okay to say that, yeah, sometimes they have issues writing women. That should not be a controversial thing to say.
No, not at all.
Like, ironically, I think DreamWorks has a better batting average sometimes, with female characters.
Honestly, you're not wrong.
No, you're not. But it actually kind of makes sense, especially since a lot of early DreamWorks were basically people that Jeffrey Katzenberg, poached from Disney.
Exactly. And then let's also talk about this one Reddit comment that you do have to kind of take with a grain of salt because it's a Reddit comment. Under the username Pixelated Ronin said, "Yo, I worked at Pixar for 13 years before layoffs. This is bullshit. Pete greenlit Molina's film and then got cold feet and drove him to a near mental breakdown with notes after he had already made 80% of the movie," which I assume he's talking about Elio and such. "We had to make that movie 3 times to get it out the door. That is a 100 plus million mistake, and Pete owns that. Elio was a colossal failure of leadership, but not from Molina. Pete failed to properly address issues he had with Elio in development. Pete consistently greenlit films with major story issues, causing massive overtime to fix them in production. Pete caved to outside pressure about LGBTQ stories in our films. See Win or Lose. Yes. Pete and Jim Morris stood on stage and told us of their epiphany that the films had to be good. Like it was a new discovery. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. No shit, guys. We've been screaming for you to fix our scripts for a decade, and you keep ignoring us. Throwing Molina under the bus is such a pathetic move, and typical from studio leadership that refuses to take accountability for anything."
And unlike other Reddit comments, like, when you actually look at the patterns and, like, everything that happened, I'm willing to believe this, because the way that the whole post is structured and articulated is, like, very, like, industry talk.
Yeah, it's almost too specific to be, like, to be fake. But, I understand some hesitancy to, like, take it as gospel just because of the source, but this one feels a little bit more legitimate than others.
And it makes sense, because sometimes you can tell, even in their better movies, when the film got tampered with. Again, Inside Out 2. Again, how Pixar fucking caved into conservative grifting losers who couldn't apparently handle a 5-second kiss between two women, which I'm sure they enjoy in other forms of media. I don't think Pixar unionizing would fix everything, but I feel like Pixar needs a total uprooting and fixing because, and I do think that might have to be, hey, you know what? Let's divorce from Disney. I'm sorry, I think as long as you're connected to Disney, you're going to keep having your stories hindered because Disney's and Bob Iger are utter shit at letting creative stories happen and such. Zootopia 2 got lucky, I think.
You know what? I actually have to disagree with that, Cameron, because if you look back at like Pixar's history, a lot of these problems existed pre-Disney. And I think it's more that Pixar, like I was saying earlier, it is a tech company that ended up making movies. It is not like Walt Disney Animation that was founded primarily to make movies. Because people need to remember that Pixar originally was like a VFX like spin-off from like Lucasfilm, and primarily they were making like post-production like compositing devices like with the Pixar render machine and everything like that. The animation was just more of an experimental thing that just kind of happened to be like their main thing down the road. But Pixar, like in the late 80s or early 90s, is credited for like compositing in a lot of Disney animation or like Disney banner projects like The Nightmare Before Christmas. But I think the problem with Pixar is that it's so like steep in like the tradition because again with like Lasseter, if it was just him, why aren't a lot of these problems being fixed? Like, yeah, there's not the groping and like sexual harassment. Cool, but that is like such a fucking low bar. Like, it might as well be at the Earth's core.
Like, well, what would you say needs to happen then, Ray? Because, I mean, like, I agree with you. Like, it does seem like it was just kind of foundational to its existence that, yeah, the problems were there now that you talk about it. But, like, what do you think needs to happen? Or what should happen outside of, like, maybe getting Pete Docter to fuck out of the head of...
I think that's part of it. I don't know if Domichi is like the answer to fix it all, because a lot of people thought, Jennifer Lee would be the answer, and for whatever reason, whether she left of her own volition or got thrown under the bus, that clearly, like, that little experiment failed. But I think Pixar just needs like more like women and like non-cis people in leadership. They just need someone who doesn't have the history, doesn't have the baggage, some fresh blood to just kind of give it a perspective. Because I feel like as long as we're tied to like all like the Pixar Story Trust people that are still around, like Pixar can't really progress as like a studio. They're just going to be the studio that sometimes throws out bangers and then just other times just be like, oh, that's kind of fine. Because Pixar, contrary to like their early beginnings, has like competition now that just, hey, we're Pixar isn't enough.
That's the thing. It's like back then it was just Disney, Pixar, early DreamWorks, a little Blue Sky here and there, but that was really it. And even then, nobody really considered Blue Sky competition. I mean, nothing against them. Like, honestly, to be clear, nothing against them. But it was just like, there wasn't much there. But now, we got Netflix jumping in, we have Illumination jumping in, DreamWorks is making some of their best movies as of late. With Disney and Pixar, their movies can be good, but the 2020s have been bluntly rough for them. And even then, you could say that was a thing happening with Disney all the way back after 2016, because what happened after that with Disney? Ralph Breaks the Internet, widely despised as a sequel to Wreck-It Ralph, but also as an Oscar-nominated movie. Frozen 2, complete utter disaster that just happened to make a lot of money because Frozen was the biggest thing in that decade. Raya and the Last Dragon had pretty good overall execution until the third act or so, or just overall execution of having to feel like, oh, we're just going to combine a bunch of Asian cultures and just say it's a mashup. Okay, here we go. And it's just like, no, there's a lot you can do to expand or focus on it. And then Encanto comes out, and lucky for that thing to blow up and become the new Frozen, essentially.
Yeah, that one, they were in the right place at the right time.
Then Strange World comes out, and it felt like they were back in their early 2000s of who do we make this action adventure film for? Because it needs to be a little darker, it needs to be a little more mature because we're having a generational familial dysfunction plotline, which ironically Turning Red did better. Just weird how we had both of those at the same year, and Disney, of all companies, with all the money they can throw around, could not make, like, the execs could not decide on a tone or a commitment to the bit for them, because, like, Strange World was exactly that issue with Atlantis and Treasure Planet. They want to be mature, but they can't because they're Disney, and Disney has strangleholded itself into a position of, we have to be family friendly or else the conservative grifter losers are going to yell at us when we shouldn't fucking care. They're still going to see our shit. But apparently they think siding with the Nazis is an okay thing. And then Wish happens and was a complete disaster and failure for a celebration that was meant to be the big shining point of their 100-year anniversary. But nope, that failed. Didn't get nominated. Was one of the worst reviewed Disney films of all time. Crashed. Moana 2 had to be forced into a movie format because they needed something to make money for them because they were losing money. They lost so much money in 2023. It's not funny. I mean, it is funny because they're Disney, but it's like they lost, I think, upward to almost like $3 billion. And it's like, wow. And then Zootopia 2 got lucky. It had a more focused storyline, but even then you can kind of tell they could have done a little more. And with Pixar, it just seems like, yeah.
They're going through the motions a lot of the time.
Yeah, going through the motions, or they're struggling to find a cohesive story. And even with stuff like Soul, which, again, I still think Soul is a pretty good overall movie. I still would have preferred Wolfwalkers winning Best Animated Feature. I think everyone does. But they could have fixed a lot of the issues if they just, nothing against Tina Fey, but maybe not cast Tina Fey. And then, yeah, Luca, it was good. Turning Red was good. Lightyear, complete disaster. And then with Elio, it's like, they really haven't learned. And obviously, it's kind of impossible with these production pipelines they put themselves in, where when 2 movies come out, they're already halfway finishing 2 others, and they're about to greenlight others. So it's frustrating.
And it's so crazy that, if you know the reason, because I've looked at like old like tag, the Animation Guild forums from like 2000, whatever, like right as the merger is happening. But it is nuts that Pixar is the only major animation studio like that does production in the United States proper that isn't unionized.
Yeah, would fixing a lot of that be like because they get unionized? Because I know that was part of the deal when the merger happened, that like Disney was like, hey, stop being union, or don't be union. And then
actually, I think it was the reverse. I think it was Ed Catmull who said that. So that's what I meant foundationally. Like, Pixar is just like a Silicon Valley tech company that just happens to make movies.
So, like, what does Pixar need to do? Like, let's wrap this up with what can they do? What should they do? I think it is like bring in new talent, get Pete Docter out of there. Because he's like Andrew Stanton, because Andrew Stanton was asked, would you be like, if you were offered the job to lead Pixar, would you? And he's like, no, absolutely not.
I love the honesty of Stanton, who's like, no. My job is to be a creative, nothing more, nothing less.
And I just don't think Pete Docter is a good, like, I think he will defend your project as long as there are no queer elements in it, which that's such a shitty thing to assume. What else am I supposed to take away from his wording and comments?
I mean, because Disney, like, even in their press releases, like, no one asked you to say this, dude, unless you personally hold those beliefs. But, like, when you're a leader of the company, like, your personal beliefs, like, that's nice and all, but that's not, you can't speak on behalf of your company and, like, your other employees, who many of them are trans and queer and women. So, like, it's pretty insulting in a way. Like, this is, like, my opinion. Your job is to be the neutral cheerleader. Like, why are you putting your own personal opinions and toting them as the official company line?
Exactly. It's like, there's a reason why even when they've had a good movie come out, like Turning Red or Luca or like Inside Out 2 come out, they still lose at the Best Animated Feature Oscar, because these last few years, people have shown, and even the voters in all of their ineptitude have said, hey, you know what? Maybe we don't need to give Disney and Pixar the award this year again. And let's just give it to someone else. And what are the kind of movies that they have awarded it? A twisted, dark folk reimagining, like retelling of Pinocchio, where instead of the Pleasure Island sequence, it's basically a Nazi training camp. Let's see. The Boy and a Heron, a boy dealing with the loss of his mother and overcoming a world full of fear and hate, and to be basically like, hey, it's going to be rough out there, but what are you going to do to make the world that you want to live in? And then, of course, Flo, the cute freaking cat. with no
zero dialogue.
There's no dialogue, religious like symbolism, and about a world coming together through dire times. And then, what just won? A female-led Korean cast action comedy with musical numbers that told a story about identity. It just, like, there's a reason, like, yes, maybe Turning Red could have won back in 2022, but it wasn't going to, because Pinocchio was just that more impactful. Mm-hmm. So,
I think the one lesson that Pixar needs to take away from the past 4 years is this isn't 2002 anymore. Like, they're not the only ones who are making like groundbreaking stories in the US. Like,
or especially in like 3D animation, because like so much of this stuff is accessible now. You don't have to be like a Pixar level operation. I mean, look at Flow. That cost like $4 million and was made on fucking Blender.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is, like, they have to stop treating themselves like the king of the hill when the competition has increased, culture has frankly moved beyond like the traditional Pixar model. Like, even forget technology for a second, just from a storytelling perspective, like we have moved on beyond like what has worked for the company since like the very beginning.
Well, that's why Hoppers feels so refreshing, because it just feels like flavorful and distinct from a lot of their more typical antics. It's like what Matthew McConaughey was saying to Timothy Chalamet in that infamous interview discussion. They need to start making movies people want to see. And even though IP can still be a very strong thing, people want stories. They want... And guess what kind of survey just popped up again? What kind of movies do people like going to the theater for? films with diverse casts and stories. Gee, it's not like we haven't had that survey happen every single year.
It's almost like diversity is a universal shared experience, almost kind of like a universal story.
It's the overall issue is, yes, Pixar was the king of its hill, but you know what? The hills are alive and they are representing other studios that are basically stealing your lunch. Like, there's a reason why, basically, yeah, while Inside Out 2 made a dent in the world, there's a reason why people are loving The Wild Robot more from that year. There's a reason why, like, the freaking Transformers 1 movie has left an impact on people because of its storytelling, of the drama and dynamics between Optimus and Megatron from that movie. They are outpacing you. Even your ex-competition that you folded and shut down, like, got Nimona out and was a much bigger and more impactful movie than Elemental or Wish. So, Pixar, you gotta let your people cook, you gotta fix your bullshit, and also unionize. So
you don't crush your employees, so then maybe you actually have time to fix your stories.
Mm-hmm.
but
like, that being said, go see Hoppers.
Yeah, go see Hoppers. It's great, but it just sucks because now people are like, well, do I hate Hoppers now more because of that story? And it's like, maybe you got your opinion changed, but even with that story, I still love Hoppers. But I love it because Daniel Chong had a identity and was able to tell his story. So, yeah. This was a long one. So, I mean, by the time I edit it, it probably won't be as long, but still, I digress. Next time, we are going to slow the hell down, or at least hope the industry slows the hell down.
I mean, like, story-wise, like, the industry itself needs to make more shit because things are dire out there.
Yeah, make more movies and TV shows, but story-wise, let us breathe a little. Let's talk about Strip Law next time, because all I hear is great things about that show. Let's low-key it before we have to go talk to Super Mario and such. So, that'll be all for this episode.
Until next time, Bree, where can everyone find you online?
Well, if you wish to find me online and see my antics of me either making art or suffering through bad movies, you can follow me at crazylemur.bsky.social. I'm also on Instagram, LemursRoll1. When I have 5 minutes to breathe, I will post pictures from the flower show that I was recently at, but I also post my dog and my cooking sometimes, so if you want the slightly, less crazy version of me, go follow me there.
And Cameron?
You can find me on Blue Sky at camsiview.biz. I am a contributor to Media Magpies, a new one-stop shop for written film, TV, pop culture discourse. I have my own website called camsiview.biz where I review animated films and shows from around the world called The Other Side of Animation. And I have a Patreon at patreon.com/camsiview that I'm going to start retooling soon. That's where you can find me.
And you guys can find me on various social media sites at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Blue Sky at Renegade Pop Culture. You can also find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/Renegade Pop Culture, on YouTube at Renegade Pop Culture, or at Organoid Zero. Find us on Podchaser. Consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need to escape? So do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.